Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason. I'm here to bring you the fight picks for a UFC Fight Night taking place in Auckland, New Zealand, where Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon, will be taking on Dan the Hangman Hooker in what will be an amazing lightweight contest. This is definitely setting the stage for things to come at lightweight. There's also some very good fights down further on the card. Let's get into it. Here's the show. All right, so let's kick things off with the main event. We have two phenomenal strikers taking place in this contest. Paul Felder is phenomenal, 10 KOs over 17 wins. Looking over at Hooker, 10 KOs over 19 wins. Hooker does have more ground game, 7 submissions over those 19, whereas Felder just has 1 for his 17. And they're both very similar in their losses, with 1 KO each, and the 2 submission losses to Hooker, none for the Irish Dragon. And I don't see this fight going to the mat. I honestly don't. But I see these guys having a really, really amazing technical kickboxing fight. Felder is a Rufus Sport product. Dan Hooker is coming out of City Kickboxing, which I know is a little bit new and up and coming as far as MMA camps go, but Israel Adesanya trains out of there. The Hangman, they got a lot of great talent developing in that part of the world. And so this is a tough call for me to make. The numbers ultimately side with Dan Hooker. I do have one metric that does pick Felder, though. This is not a straight across the board pick, but I am picking Hooker in this one. So I know that Hooker was a little bit derailed in his Edson Barboza fight. He said that he wasn't feeling right, and he just kind of let Barboza get the better of him and slip in those good shots and ended up knocking him out. And we've seen Felder, Felder hasn't looked as dominant as the Hangman has, with the exception of that one loss to Barboza. I mean, he was perfect in the UFC starting in 2017. Did have a couple losses in there, Jason Knight, Rodriguez. But starting with Ross Pearson of June 10th, 2017, he went on a 4-fight win streak where he ran into Edson Barboza, took a little bit of a setback, and then went back and got great wins over James Vick and Al Iaquinta. Paul Felder, he doesn't fight quite as much. He's definitely gotten it in, twice in 2019, but only once in 2018. He was fairly active in 17, but he really started getting more into the commentator stuff. I think pulled him away from the sport a little bit. And his win over Barboza, I don't think that was straight up legit. I don't think we've seen a really dominant performance out of Felder in a while. I don't think we've seen it since 2017 when he took on Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. I think that was the last time we saw a great performance out of him. Like I said, I thought that he lost on the UFC 242 card to Barboza. I thought that was a bad split decision. And James Vick, I know that Dan Hooker also knocked him out, but James Vick's chin is just not there, and Felder couldn't connect hard enough to actually shut the lights out on him. He also lost to Mike Perry as well, who we know is not the most phenomenal fighter these days. He definitely has, kind of taken a little bit of a slide. So, ignoring the numbers just in my color commentary here, I really like Dan Hooker in this one. When we actually look at the numbers, though, just to kind of back things up here a little bit, I think that Dan Hooker possesses a little bit of an advantage. So his submission rate, his takedown accuracy is a little bit better. And I also it's true, his striking output is much, much higher, along with better defense and better accuracy. I think he outdoes him just a little bit, and then in the back pocket, 5-inch reach advantage with a competent switch stance. When you examine all of those elements of the Irish Dragon versus Dan Hooker, I think that they're very close. It's right down the middle, but we got to go slight edge to the Hangman Hooker. I think he gets it done. This fight's also taking place in Auckland. He's the hometown guy. He's the pick. We're making it. I'm taking the Hangman in this lightweight event. All right, moving on to the co-main. We're going to have Jim Crute take on Michael Olenstruck. And this one, I think, is another very close fight, but I got to give the edge here to Crute. I think he's the little bit better fighter. Now, both these guys are coming off of submission losses here. Ovince St. Preux against Olenstruck and Misha Serkinov against James Crute. But I think that these guys bring it back in, and I think they have a really good contest where ultimately Crute picks up the W here. I think Crute, has just a little bit better dynamic game. I know that Olenstruck has the 10 KOs over his 14 wins, and Krut's a little bit more of a decision artist, but there's nothing wrong with getting a decision. There's nothing wrong with knowing what to do in order to pick up a win here. I like Krut's numbers. I think that his, submission game is just way higher. I think his takedown accuracy is way higher. So if Olenstruck starts putting it on him on the feet, I think he's going to be able to get inside, score a solid takedown, and sap the gas tank of Olenstruck to keep himself safe. So I gotta side with that better, more well-rounded fighter, and I am taking Jim the Brute Krut in this contest. All right, in the next one here, we're going to have at Lady Strawweight, we're going to have Karolina Kowalkiewicz take on Xinyan Zhang, or Yan. It's tough with these Chinese fighters sometimes to pronounce their names. I definitely do not speak Mandarin or Cantonese, so just bear with me. But Karolina Kowalkiewicz is going to be taking on the Fury Yan, and it's going to be a very good fight. The Fury is on the upswing. She has great wins inside of the UFC, 4 of them in a row to be exact, and her last win was over Angela Hill, who's also fighting on this card, which is kind of a fun fact. Whereas if I look over at Kowalkiewicz, she has not looked good in quite a while. She obviously came into the UFC, win over Rose Namajunas, fought for the title against Joan Jacek. Then she fought Claudia Gadelha, took a loss, got some more wins back, but now she's on a 3-fight losing streak. Jessica Andrade, great fighter. Michelle Watterson, great fighter. Alexa Grasso, great fighter. And here's the problem. I think that Yan is going to be a great fighter. I don't think she's middle of the pack. I think that she's going to get a win here over Kowalkiewicz. I don't know what Kowalkiewicz has to do to get it back. She almost seems hesitant in her striking exchanges, where I think she just, has just gotten rung a few too many times. And I don't know if it's hesitation. I don't know if it's confidence. I'm not sure what it is, but I don't think she has it right now to take out a competent fighter like Yan. Yan is pointing her way to victory, right? She has 6 decisions over her 11 wins, but that's a good thing for her. Kowalkiewicz doesn't have the most power in the world with only 1 knockout and 2 submissions over her 12 wins. So I think if we're looking at a point-to-point contest where, maybe we could see a lot of striking, power advantage goes to Yan, decision advantage, I think, goes to Yan, and I gotta go ultimately with Yan in this contest. Her striking accuracy is a little bit better. Her output's a little bit better. While she, doesn't have really a takedown game, I don't think, she does have better accuracy, and she does shoot a little more often. So we may see this thing end up going to the mat if Yan chooses to go there, whereas pretty much Kowalkiewicz almost never does it unless it's a panic move. And I'm not saying she couldn't panic, but if she's panicking, she's losing. And I think it's going to be an easy night for Yan. So we are going with the Fury Yan in this contest. All right, this next one is still counted as a debut fight for us. This is going to be Ben Sosoli taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. And so in this one, it's a, it's a debuting fight, so there's not a whole lot of information. Ben Solesi has kind of fought in the UFC. He had the no contest to Greg Hardy because of the asthma, and he had the no contest in the Dana White Contender Series due to eye poke. So he's had kind of a tough run in the UFC, so I'm not going to take those numbers. Granted, it was a full fight against Hardy, but Hardy, he basically used illegal substance while he was fighting. So I'm just going with the, debuting data side of things. There are fights, obviously, for Rogerio, but we're going as a debut fight because technically Solesi hasn't had a fight end in a win or loss yet in the UFC. To kind of get to the the roundabout point, though, I have Rogerio de Lima winning this one. I think that he's a really good fighter when he fights kind of ho-hum talent. And I'm not saying Solesi is ho-hum, but I don't think he's quite at your Stefan Struve, Ovince St. Preux level. I don't think that he's going to pose as much of a challenge, especially with his 7-2 record, not having a whole lot of experience. We saw what he did against guys like Hardy. If they were big and explosive, he had a hard time. I think he's going to have another hard time here, and I think that Rogerio de Lima gets it done. I think he's the better statistical choice. Now, that being said, Ben Sololi must be frustrated as hell. Really wants to get a win. And if I had to go on heart and will, I probably would go with Sosoli on this one. But I had to go with the numbers, and even though it's the debuting data, I'm going Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He's the pick in this fight. All right, this is one you might call me crazy for calling, but in this Magomed Mustafa's Magomed, Russian fighter from Sochi. He's taking on Brad Riddell, the Quake, and I gotta go with Riddell here. Riddell is a city kickboxing product. We know they're on the up-and-coming list here, and even though Magomed does come out of American Top Team, I'm gonna go with Riddell here. He looks like a really hot product coming into the UFC. He has his first win in the UFC against Jamie Malarkey, and he's on a 4-fight winning streak in general in MMA. When I look over at Magomed, he did look good coming into the UFC. He got back-to-back wins, Joe Proctor and Peter Hallman, but then he lost to Kevin Lee, and he came back and got he got a spinning back kick against Rafael Fiziev, and I mean that's kind of a lucky shot, so I can't really put a whole lot of weight behind it, but I like Riddell here. I think that he's just a little bit better fighter because of his output and his takedown game. His takedown defense of Magomed hasn't been that high. The defense for Riddell has been really high, and his shooting good shots, his accuracy is amazing, his output is really high, and I think short of Magomed getting lucky with another spinning kick, I think it's Riddell all day. There's no reach advantage here either way. Riddell is the little bit younger fighter. I think he's a little more hungry. I think he's fighting in his kind of hometown area. He is a hometowner from Auckland, New Zealand. I think he'll have the edge on the judges' scorecards here. I gotta go with Brad Riddell, even though I think, most common sense people would say Magomed is probably the right pick. I think a lot of people would say that. I think these Russian, Dagestani, he's not Dagestani, but these Russian fighters are so threatening these days that a lot of people are overlooking some of the other talent out there. And I'm not. I'm taking Brad Riddell. He's the pick. All right, in the next one here at featherweight, we're going to have Kevin Aguiar take on Zubara Tukhugov. Zubara. I again getting beat up with some of these foreign fighters. I apologize. It's not my native tongue. But anyways, we got the Warrior Zubara again fighting out of Chechnya in this case, taking on Kevin Aguiar, who's from Longview, Texas. Much easier name to pronounce. He's called the Angel of Death. Kind of a cool fight name there. Anyways, let's talk about who I think's going to win. I like Aguiar in this one. Now, Aguiar, he did come off a loss to Ige, but I think Zubara isn't quite Ige's level at this point. He's had a tough go. Losses to Renato Carneiro and a draw to Lerone Murphy. He actually hasn't had a win since 2015. He's actually been out of the UFC. He was out for a while. So his last fight was in 2016 with that loss, and then he came back in September for that Khabib Poirier card with that draw. I don't know where he stands right now. He did take that big dramatic departure, hiatus from the UFC, came back, wasn't able to get a win. Can he do it now the second time around? He's training over at Tiger Muay Thai, so I like a lot of things about him, but the stats just don't support Zubara in this one. Kevin Aguiar looks like the much better fighter. Kevin Aguiar has a great 5-inch reach advantage, outputs higher, and his takedown defense is good. It's an 86% rate. When I look over at Zubara, his takedown potential is very high, so it's really going to come down to, can Kevin stop the takedowns? Now, so far in his 3 fights in the UFC, we say yes, he can. The problem is Zubara that good of a takedown artist, and can he get inside that reach to score those takedowns? I'm going to say no for now, okay? I know you might be arguing with me. I'm going to say no for now. I think Aguiar keeps him stiff with the jab, pushes him away, and is able to stuff enough takedowns to pick up a win here. I am going to go with the Angel of Death in this contest. All right, the next one here is another debut fight, so we're not going to get too crazy into it. I got Joshua CulleyBow taking on Jalen Turner in this one. Jalen Turner is a gigantic lightweight fighter at 6'3", but I do like CulleyBow here. It's debut information, so take it all with a grain of salt. He's coming in undefeated in the UFC, back-to-back KOs. I know there's a big weight cut for Turner. He's just so big for this weight class. It certainly makes it hard for him to compete, and I don't know if he'll be fully hydrated and be able to take some of these big shots that we've seen CulleyBow be able to throw out there. I'm not sure what the reach is yet, though, for CulleyBow. We got that 77-inch reach for Turner. I mean, he's a gigantic lightweight. He has good output. He is a really good fighter. It's just, we're dealing with debut stats, so take it with a grain of salt. I just think that Josh is going to be able to get in there and potentially pick up a KO on a fighter like Turner. But the question is getting inside on a guy that's 6'3". Turner's, I mean, I don't know how the hell he fights, honestly, at 155 pounds. He should be at 170 for sure, I think. But for the time being, he's fighting at 155, and so assuming he makes weight, this is going to be an interesting contest. Also, Josh seems to be coming up. He's listed here as a featherweight fighter, so he's actually coming up from feather to go to lightweight. So hopefully he's not cutting weight. He's looking thick, strong, and good, and he is the pick ultimately. But bear in mind, it is a debut bout. I am taking Josh CulleyBow in this contest. All right, so our next one is going to be a welterweight bout where we have Jake the Celtic Kid Matthews taking on Emil Valhalla Meek. So I love the fight name, but I got to go with the Celtic Kid. I think that he gets it done. I like him here just a bit more. He's looking really good with wins over Rostam Akman. He was able to keep that heavy wrestling takedown fighter off of him and win in, I'd say, relatively dramatic fashion, given it was a unanimous decision. His stats also look good as well. He is slightly better with the takedowns. He's slightly better with the striking output. He does get hit a bit, but he has pretty good defense overall considering some of the guys that he's fought. I think that he is going to be able to potentially take Emil Meek down, and despite the guy being strong as hell and swinging big hands with 7 KOs over his 9 wins, I think that he saps the gas tank, takes that away from Emil Meek, and is able to wrestle him to the ground. These guys are also very similar in size, both 5'11", similar reach, although there is a 1-inch advantage for Meek that I think won't be too important, but ultimately we'll see how it all plays out. I am picking Jake Matthews, though, in this contest. All right, in the next contest here, we're going to have a pretty good one because we have Kalin Porter, the Rockstar, taking on Kenyon Song, the Assassin, in another welterweight matchup. So for this one, I bet you're thinking I'm going to pick Song, but I'm not. I'm going with Potter on this one. I think that he's going to be able to score takedowns and defeat the, let's just be honest, the more dynamic, better striker. Kenyon Song's striking output is better. I think that he is a more technical fighter, but here's the problem. His takedown defense is 50%. He never shoots himself, and Potter averages 2.83 takedowns for every 15 minutes. His accuracy is 60%, and he's never been taken down himself. I think he gets it to the mat. I think that he picks up a solid win. However, just bear in mind, if Song is able to keep this standing and is able to dance around Potter, keep him off him, he could end up picking up the win here via some very good point tactics. We'll see how it plays out, though. Oh, also one thing as well, Kenyon Song does train over at Jackson Wink, so he does have the gym advantage, but I ultimately got to go with the Rockstar here. I am picking Kalin Porter in this contest. All right, so the next fighter I really love at flyweight, it's Kai Kara-France. Don't blink, Kara-France taking on Tyson Nam. And in this one, it is kind of, I think, a scary fight for Kai Kara-France. You know, I thought that he was going to get a great win over Brandon Moreno. I thought he was just going to climb the ladder. He was looking great. Beat Mark De La Rosa, beat Rulan Paiva. He was looking good. I thought he was just going to keep going up. He's got great numbers, too. He's got 9 KOs over his 20 wins. I mean, he brings a lot to the table for a guy, you know, at flyweight. He definitely gets finishes, right? He's 20-8, and I like him. He's a fun, dynamic fighter at this weight class. But Tyson Nam is also very good himself. 10 KOs over his 18 wins, but he does lose a lot. He does get into brawling affairs, and that's where I like Kai Kara-France in this one. I think that he is going to be able to be the better, more technical fighter. He's also 10 years his junior. He's going to have better gas tank. He trains at Tiger Muay Thai, the same place that trains Valentina Shevchenko. I think there's a lot of things that make Kai Kara-France a better fighter, and I think that he picks up the W against Nam. You know, I see this thing mostly standing, to be perfectly honest. I don't think we'll see this thing go to the ground with just the 1 submission victory for Nam and the 3 for Kai Kara-France. I think that they're going to put up their dukes, lay it on the line in the center of the octagon, and potentially have a bit of a brawl. And we know how Nam has done in brawls. He has gotten knocked out quite well. It's actually just 1 additional time than Kai Kara-France. He has the 2 KO losses, but we'll see how it plays out. I think that Nam's got the weaker chin here. I think he could go night-night, and I am picking Kai Kara-France in this contest. He's the pick in this flyweight matchup. All right, this next one I shouldn't even be putting a pick in because we get an Angela Hill fight. Remember what I said about Angela Hill fights? We don't bet on those. We stay away from them like the plague. She is the hardest fighter to lock down for some reason. I don't hate her. It's begrudging, but I don't hate her. I like her as a fighter. But dear God, I cannot pick against or for this woman to save my life. Every time I pick for her, she fucking hits a fucking brick, and it just gets destroyed. And I bet against her, she turns into fucking goddamn superhero and just puts it on. I don't know who's gonna win this one. I'm going with Lima Lookabunmi in this one. I think she's the better fighter, but dear God, if I have no idea, I'm not even gonna get into the color. The numbers go with Lima Lookabunmi, but just bear in mind she was an atomweight fighter, and so she's going up a weight class. She was a 105 pounder, and Angel Hill is a weight cutting straw weight at 115 pounds. We'll see how things play out. Lookabunmi doesn't have too many fights under her belt. She's 4-1. I think they're giving Hill maybe an easy. I have no idea. I just don't know. This is the one. Anytime Angela Hill's involved at this point, this is all you're getting. It's just a whole lot of I don't knows. Okay, I'm still officially gonna go with Lookabunmi, but it's probably gonna be Hill. I'm picking Lookabunmi. Just bet on Hill. Do it. Anyways, let's move on to the next fight that I think I have something meaningful to say. Okay, moving on to the next meaningful fight here. Maki Patola, Coconut Bombs, is going to be taking on Takashi Sato. So Coconut Bombs was supposed to come in as a hot product into the UFC. He was supposed to pick up an amazing win when he took on Kalin Porter. However, he lost unanimous decision. He didn't look good at all. I remember I picked against Potter. I picked Patola. But I'm hoping here that Patola can come out, get his wits about him, and go back to his winning ways. I mean, he came in hot. KO win in his I guess Hawaiian organization CFFC, gets a Bellator win, right? A submission via rear naked choke, knocks out the guy on the Dana White Contender Series a minute 37 seconds in, and then boom, goes in the UFC and kind of just craps a goose egg and picks up an L. But I don't think he's going to do it this time. The numbers, even his UFC numbers against Potter, support him defeating Takashi Sato. I think that he's going to be able to defeat Sato. There's not a whole lot of information to go on, so just keep that in mind. But I think that Patola, his higher striking output, is going to be able to take out Sato. However, Sato does have a little bit of a takedown game, and we know that Patola's defense is not good, at least when we saw him against Potter. So I think if he can keep it mostly standing, and Sato maybe doesn't push it to the ground, he can end up picking up a win. So I am going Coconut Bombs to pick up a win in this one. And then let's close it out. We have one more fight left on the card here. It's going to be Shayna Dobson and Priscilla Cachoeira. This is a really, kind of not the best fight. Let's be perfectly honest. Shayna Dobson, she's a real low-level talent in the UFC. She's 3-3. Priscilla Cachoeira is on a 3-fight losing streak. I don't know who's honestly going to win this fight. It's really tough to say. There are stats on them, and it's not a great statistical fight. If I didn't have to pick it, I wouldn't, but I'm still going to. In this one, I'm going to go with Dobson. I think she's bigger. I think she's more aggressive. I think she hits a little bit harder, all things considered. I think she can bully Cachoeira around a little bit because of her kind of thicker build, but we'll see how things play out. Ultimately, I am going with Shayna Danger Dobson in that one. So let's go over them one more time. We have Hooker, Crute, Jan, Riddell, Aguiar, Matthews, Potter, Carafrance, Lookabunmi, Patola, Dobson, CulleyBow, and De Lima to round things out. So this is, looking like a really, really good card. Couple sleeper hits on there. I like Crute. Obviously, the Hooker fight is amazing. I love anytime I get to watch Kai Kara-France. I'm hoping Patola actually proves that he belongs in the UFC. So there's a couple of really, really good ones I'm looking forward to. And so I hope you are as well. If you wish to get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast, you can at fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com. We don't have any questions this week, but I hope if you're still listening, you'll go ahead and reach out to the show, Facebook, Twitter, email, whatever is good for you. Hell, even YouTube for what it's worth. I'll be back with the retrospective coming maybe. Yeah, you know what? It'll probably be Saturday night or Saturday, just because I think the time on this one is a little funky because, like I was talking about with that Wilder Fury 2 card, this won't be an evening fight. In fact, let me take a quick look here. Let's see, start time for UFC Auckland. Let's see if we can pull this up for us. And what do we have? We have 7 p.m. Oh, wow, they actually are going kind of... Well, I guess they're not going head-to-head. The main card starts at 7, so I think it's giving people enough time so they can still watch the boxing match. All right, so this is definitely a different time than I thought. It's a little bit later than I thought, but it's earlier than most cards with the prelims starting at just 4 p.m. So actually, that's a real solid time. I like that a lot. I'm pretty happy with that. I was afraid I might have to watch these at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So cool. I'm happy with that piece of information. Just one other thing. We also are putting the fight picks again on Patreon as well. If you wish to get those, you wish to support the show in any way that makes the most financial sense to you, please head on over to our Patreon page down in the description below. So, yeah, until I speak with you again next time, happy fight picking.